Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Bituation Room with Francesca Fiorentini. That would be me. You would be you. We live to fight another week. We're one episode away from episode 300. And it's going to be next Tuesday, which is the 2-year anniversary of genocide. A little boy named Matt Lieb will be joining me. But right now is now. And we've got a show to do, ladies and gentlemen. Really excited to have you here. Later in the show, Beres will be joining me to check in about how the Maha agenda is going. One of the many horrors that is playing out before our very eyes, perhaps not the one that is in between the hours of 9 and 12 right now on September 30th. But continually one of the horrors. We're going to talk to him about Maha, vaccines, the insanity of the anti-vax movement, and where RFK Jr. is heading next. Now, Van Lathan was going to be here, but he is very busy and confused me with somebody else. So, but if you're listening as a podcast, you don't know that, and I didn't need to tell you that, but I'm telling you right now. So I want everyone to angry tweet at him. No, we'll look forward to welcoming him on another week. It's just you and me, baby. We're going to do this. We're going to talk a little bit of Ta-Nehisi Coates v. Ezra Klein. We're going to talk about stopping Antifa in Portland. The city with what is it, like the highest like quality of life in the country? Isn't Portland like 1 or 2 in like quality of life? So stay tuned for that. And of course, a little bit of Orange Man Bad. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you so much. We are just 10 days out. 10? No, 13 days out. It's 2 weeks out. There we go. 2 weeks out from Matt and my live show in Brooklyn at the Bell House. That is Monday, October 13th. Get your tickets wherever you're listening to this or watching this. I hope to see you there, Brooklyn, and the greater tri-state area. Come through. It's not a Cardi B meet and greet, but it'll be almost as good. I won't be pregnant, or will I? You don't know. The point is, come through. Very excited to see you there. And also, if you're listening to me now, tomorrow night in Pasadena, October 1st, New World Disorder, brand new spanking lineup. Also, the next show will be November 1st. It's a Saturday at the Ice House. Just such a fun show. I love everyone who comes out. The Frantifa rolls deep, even on a Wednesday. So thank you guys so much. We're also going to, I already told you what I was going to talk about. The point is thus. If you like this show and you like some of the new things we've been doing on this show, like deep dives about the pro-natalist movement in an episode that I called Bad Baby Fever, Fascism's Baby Fever, or just the freaks of the pro-natalist movement. Now, I actually call them the creeps of the pro-natalist movement because I didn't want to call them freaks because there's nothing freaky about them. They're not trying new things in the bedroom. They are very, very straight and narrow white nationalists. And I explain why. And I explain their connections. And oh boy, do the pro-natalist connections to the people in power that we've talked about for, months, years now, Thiel, Musk, all the other ghouls, all the other tech oligarchs, Curtis Yarvin, they run deep. It's all the same little disgusting polycule of oligarchs. That's what it is, a polycule of oligarchs, and they're all interbreeding and they're all trying to have tons of babies. But watch the video, especially tune in for some act outs around a guy named Sylvester the Molester. And that's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. Go give that video some love. And if you support the show and you like it, patreon.com/bituationroom is where you go. Again, this is 100% people powered. Truly, guys, truly. I've received some funds to do one video. In the 5 years I've been doing this show, I got backing to do one video. from an awesome nonprofit organization. That's the rest of this has been you and me, baby. It's been you and the Patreon and the memberships on YouTube and my little awesome team. It's been the hard work of Paige Omek and Brent Godin and Andy Vasoyan. And so truly every dollar, $2 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month gets you the shout out during the fart song. Every dollar is a massive help to, keeping the show going. Keeping it going, doing the deep dives, trying to relive the Newsbroke magic, and so on and so forth. And so let's get into it, guys. You know what to do. You put your bitch caps on, you fasten them tight. You there's obviously a strap somewhere there. And this is what we're bitching about. So many things to bitch about. Let me just say, last week, the day that when I was bitching about, what was I bitching about? I said, why aren't these countries that have recognized Palestine, why aren't they sending their militaries, their navies to protect the flotilla? And guess what? That day, they did. Because they listened to the Bituation Room. Now, yes, Italy might have rescinded that today. Who knows? Israel's clearly closing in on the brave activists who are currently in part of the global Samud flotilla, which is not the only flotilla, as we've talked about on this show. There are many others. 1,000 Madeleines is the other. And now there's fabrication of Greta Thunberg being funded by Hamas, because of course there is. Of course, there's got to be, which is terrifying. So luckily there is the chaperoning, I guess, of, ships from Greece and Spain, but they have said that they are not going to necessarily intervene should the IDF rain missiles or board the boats or anything like that. They're not going to get into an open conflict with Israel. And it's terrifying, right? It is terrifying what could happen, especially now that there's this like, we found a back channel to Hamas and Greta is, you know what I'm saying? Like, calling Greta Hamas is just laying the groundwork. So once again, I repeat, you touch a hair on Greta's head, you will birth a millions and millions and millions of Gretas, okay? You think you got browbeat before? Just you wait. You think you got activism before? Just you wait. In addition to so many of the awesome people that are on board, including Ta-Nehisi, who's been on the show, comedian from Ireland, who is on this show, who is on the flotilla. So that was a week ago. TBD, they are like maybe 100 miles away. So I don't quote me on that, but they're within 400 miles of Gaza right now. So my heart is beating a little bit. The other thing I'm bitching about, though, is of course this imminent government shutdown that will likely happen by tomorrow. And Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are out there going, we can still make a deal. They still think that all they're asking for is for Trump to basically extend the Affordable Care subsidies and on the premiums that we're currently paying, which, let's be real, this is the time I'm like in Schumer, like me and Schumi, because he must know I buy my healthcare on the ACA, on the marketplace, as they call it, where you're not allowed to haggle. I got the copper wiring level. And so I do want to see those subsidies extended. But again, small thing in broader fascist authoritarian takeover, broader hollowing out of the government, obliterating of all norms, consolidation of the three branches of government here. So we will see what happens. To me, what is first of all, number one, shutdowns are stupid. The fact that we fund our government for like 4.5 months is the dumbest thing possible in the greatest democracy on earth. And I said that in air quotes if you are listening. So this is all dumb. However, if you were going to mount a serious affront to what has been happening, to me, the time to have done that was in March. A lot of people are saying now, yeah, it doesn't matter that the government shuts down, including 30,000 federal workers who signed an open letter to Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer saying, do not capitulate to Trump, reject any bad deal in the name of protecting federal employees. A government shutdown is never plan A. Federal workers and communities we serve will face severe hardship, but federal workers will willingly forego paychecks in the hopes of preserving the programs we have devoted our lives to administering. In other words, we'll buy you time to figure your crap out, right? Like it's okay to shut down the government so long as you are putting a little spear in the spokes of, again, this endless onslaught. And so for me, it's like, I'm of two minds. Part of me is like, I don't know. They've already done a lot of damage. I don't see a shutdown either preventing them or allowing them to do too much more because, again, ICE doesn't shut down. Customs and Border Patrol won't shut down their activities. The Department of War and little Rapey Pete doesn't shut down. So none of the things that they're trying to beef up shuts down. National parks will shut down, right? Possible distribution of SNAP benefits will shut down. Do you know what I'm saying? So but I listen to the Federal Employees Union. If 30,000 of them say that let's do a shutdown, hell, man, let's do a shutdown. And if it looks bad on Republicans, which it will, that's a bonus to boot. So that's sort of what I'm bitching about is like I feel everyone who wants to haggle on the shutdown, he says, we have to shut it down, but the cat is out of the bag. We need far more than government shutdowns to actually shut down the government, like we want to shut down the government, right? We need mass civil disobedience, right? We need mass calls of noncompliance. Call me a general strike gal if you want. Obviously, that takes a lot of work, but that's what we need. And effectively, these are federal employees saying, yeah, man, let's go. Let's do this. Let's do this sort of, passive strike, if you will. Anyway, that is, those are the two little dual things that I'm bitching about. And if you sometimes feel like maybe you're a little on edge, maybe you're a little jittery, maybe that coffee in the morning just ain't doing it. It's like makes you a little bit too on edge. Well, good thing Sunset Lake CBD has coffee. Why is that good? Because the CBD helps temper out the effects of caffeine. Some of y'all can't drink caffeine. You're like, gives me too much of the jitters. Try the roasts over at Sunset Lake CBD. And let me tell you more about them. It was National Coffee Day the other day, 29th, 9/29. It's International Coffee Day tomorrow. And in between, you can save 20% off Sunset Lake's Farmers Roast CBD coffee with coupon code FRANTIFA. Again, FRANTIFA. It's not just coffee, people. It's shade-grown, sustainably sourced, and Rainforest Alliance certified. So you can feel every good about every cup. Sunset Lake CBD is small batch, and it roasts with a local roaster, infuses the whole bean with their full spectrum CBD. It's balanced, not jittery, and honestly, perfect way to start the day. Or get a smooth boost in the afternoon. Ooh, smooth boost. I love a smooth boost. Okay, sunsetlakecbd.com, coupon code FRANTIFA for 20% off. Try it. See if you like it. There's no reason not to try it. And let's keep it rolling, you guys. I have just a little something for you. We're gonna be doing a little bit of the Orange Man Bad. And thank you, Stephen Childers, for saying that I liked your Middle Earth video. Yes, you know what? I can't only do videos about Lord of the Rings. Trust me, if I were only in it for clicks, I would. But you need to learn about fascist uteruses, okay? That's just gonna be that you gotta take your medicine with the, with the spoonful of sugar. Let's do it, guys. Let's get into Orange Man Bad. You guys know that's Matt in the background, right? This week in Orange Man Bad, Orange Man is poised to bail out the country of Argentina to the tune of $20 billion. Did I ever mention that I live there? After President Javier Milei's Doge-like slash and burn austerity policies have tanked the country's fragile economy. I guess we heard wrong when Trump said America first. He meant America's first, okay? Why are you so United States centric? All right, America refers to the whole continent. Now, you can only imagine what Argentina will have to give up in return. We're talking a Trump hotel on a Patagonian glacier, all of the beef, that's right, all of the beef, and the repatriation of at least 75 Nazis. At least. MAGA is currently flipping out about Bad Bunny performing at the Super Bowl halftime show because he sings in Spanish, which they think means he's not American, even though he's Puerto Rican, which is part of the United States. They're like, even Ricky Martin said living la vida loca. Can you just throw in an English word? Now, by the way, guys, Bad Bunny is American. Okay, yes, he's Puerto Rican, but also he is American because he dated a Kardashian. All right? That automatically makes you American. That's a test of loyalty. That's like driving in a Chevy, eating a hot dog while draped in the American flag and doing a mass shooting. That's how American that is. Speaking of mass shootings, over the weekend there were multiple mass shootings, two in particular in North Carolina and Michigan that killed 9 people in total. The culprits were both white men, former Marines who served in Iraq. What is it about? Must be something like a connection. But don't worry, I'm sure one of them matched with a trans person one time on Hinge, which probably caused them to spiral, not unlike Dave Chappelle. Orange Man has given Hamas 3 or 4 days to respond to Israel's ceasefire plan, which involves complete Palestinian disarmament, foreign control of the Gaza Strip, and a permanent Israeli security presence, warning that unless they accept, there will be consequences. Like what? Well, a complete Palestinian disarmament, foreign control of the Gaza Strip, and a permanent Israeli security presence. What are we talking about here? Hamas has already agreed to a ceasefire a million different ways and has consistently agreed to ceasefire terms, and then Israel goes and bombs Hamas leaders in Doha or Damascus or Lebanon. It's almost like they don't want to stop murdering people. It's like, what are the Trump's like, there are the consequences. What the fuck? What consequences? Look at what's happening. They're sniping nurses in the head, people. How does it get worse? All right, if that bummed you out, just write it out to this. All right, you guys, that was OMB by myself, and I don't love that, but, you know, it's fine. I could hear you commenting in the background. Let's get into it. There are about to be a bunch of breaking stories coming out about activists, movement leaders who have been directly targeted by the administration. I know this second, third hand. I know it is happening, and I know that there is clearly a massive legal fight, and people are trying to figure out strategically how to fight what Trump is doing, which is declaring war basically on the left, and specifically nonprofits, and specifically Antifa, right? Which is so effing vague. Trump issued what is being called the NSPM 7, which basically expands the domestic terrorism watch list. It doubles it. The people that are targeted are anyone, or any individuals or entities who can be identified using the following indicators: anti-Americanism. Okay, well that's very clear. That's cut and dry. Yeah. And hasn't American history proven what being anti-American is. It's communism or socialism. Anti-capitalism, there we go. Anti-Christianity, support or for the overthrow of the United States government, so all of the Jan Sixers. Extremism on migration. What the F does that even mean? Extremism on race, like believing that it exists and people are bearing the brunt of structural racism. Extremism on gender, as in it's a construct. Is that extremist? Hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on family. So, childless cat ladies, you've been warned. Hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on religion, and hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on morality. Again, very cut and dry on what American morality is. I mean, if you're not okay with a regular weekend in September causing the deaths of 9+ people because of the, 400 million guns we have in this country, that's anti-American. That goes against our moral principles. All right. AR-15s first, everybody else second. Now this is according to just excellent reporting from Ken Klippenstein, of course, as always. This is the Countering Domestic Terrorism and Organized Political Violence. Trump directs the Justice Department, the FBI, and other national security agencies and departments to fight his version of political violence in America, retooling a network of joint terrorism task forces to focus on leftist political violence in America. This vast counterterrorism army made up of federal, state, and local agents would, as Trump aide Stephen Miller said, form the central hub of that effort. The NSPM7 directs a new national strategy to disrupt any individuals or groups that foment political violence, including before they result in violent political acts. Before. So we're in pre-crime levels. I mean, look, I liked Minority Report as a movie. Okay? Problematic fave, Tom Cruise kind of crushes it. But notice how Stephen Miller is quoted there, which makes sense because Trump is not president. He's just a giant Sharpie who sort of rubs himself on different pieces of paper, okay? This is him signing it, and listen to Stephen Miller waxing on about who they're targeting and how historic this is.
This is the first time in American history that there is an all-of-government effort to dismantle left-wing terrorism, to dismantle Antifa, to dismantle the organizations that have been carrying out these acts of political violence and terrorism.
He's not even listening. Trump is just like, and this is Stephen Miller, because of course it is. Like, this is the actual danger that a second Trump term posed. Oh, you didn't get enough fascism in the first one? That was a practice round, man. Now they're going to do it for real, for real. Now they're going to take what happened in 2020, which was what? It was 99.9% peaceful demonstrations against police brutality. And they're going to use that to sick the National Guard, ICE, Border Patrol on all of us, and the FBI. So again, ICE and Border Patrol and the National Guard, they are the thugs, right? They're the ones who are they're the brown shirts, if you will. But the FBI and Kash Patel, in an effort, I mean, God, I don't even know what's a distraction from the Epstein files anymore. Everything, all of it, they always wanted to do this anyway, is going after any kind of leftist organizations. And that includes, and specifically, they have lists of organizations that I've worked with, that I've had on this show, that I care about, whose leaders are visionaries, are so smart, are so switched on. And again, these are not like, they're not like liberal charity organizations. They are movement thought leaders and people who've been thinking about how to put both pressure on Congress, but also how to build broad bases of people who fight for their own rights, whether it's on campaigns, whether it's around labor, whether it's around immigrant rights, whether it's legal defense strategies. And this is all happening in real time. So these stories of people whose homes are being raided, whose data is being snatched up, these are going to start coming out. And all of it also is just a total backlash to, let's be real, Democrats not squarely standing with groups like Black Lives Matter, right? Not doing F all while they were in power and not saying, you know what? This has been a festering wound, the criminal, the criminal justice system, the policing system. It's a festering wound, and good on these organizations for dreaming up legislation, including the DREAM Act, or the DREAM Act in terms of immigration. It was only because of movements that we even got things like DACA, right? Again, and immigrant rights organizations are going to be lumped in with whatever the F Antifa or anti-Americanism is. Now, obviously, Antifa is silly because it's not an organization. It's just people when there are protests who want to be a little bit more militant, right? They're going to cover their faces. They're going to form a line. They are going to, and historically Antifa, like the name says, we're talking in the 90s, we're talking like early 90s, has consistently gone to Klan rallies and counter-protested, have consistently gone to hate rallies and counter-protested, and consistently the cops, guess whose skulls they crack? They crack theirs. Not because they're carrying weapons or anything, but because they're standing up against white nationalism, against hatred. But now, when you classify anti-fascists as being terrorists, you're kind of telling on yourself, right? And that's exactly what they're doing. And we can see it playing out right now in Chicago, obviously in DC and LA, as ICE continues these attacks, but also we see it playing out now in Portland. Portland, one of the sites during 2020 where protesters arguably had the most autonomy and support, and, were able to have honestly have some incredible solidarity. And you can kind of see that on display as federal agents are being pushed back in Portland. I think this was yesterday. So this is outside an ICE detention center. And by the way, this is in the wake of Trump. This is in the wake of Trump calling the National Guard, the Oregon National Guard, 200 of them, to go to Portland to stop Antifa. So here's a little taste of the kind of solidarity we're talking about. Very often, you don't see federal troops backtracking because there maybe there's like 30, 40 troops there, but there's like 300 protesters or 400 protesters, maybe 1,000. I haven't heard estimates of how big the crowd is.
Fuck off, Nazis! I said Portland!
No, there's like they're screaming "Ice out of Portland." There's like 15 of them, man. And then let's get the back shot here, looking out at the crowd. Yeah, a lot of people are gonna roll up and defend their communities. And you bet your ass, if a Democratic president did the same thing in any so-called red city, that's exactly what would happen, except for there would be far more bullets flying. So, these are the only people who are standing up for us, because, by the way, Oregon is suing over the deployment of National Guard. The mayor has said, let me bring it up. The mayor, Keith Wilson, said it's a surreal moment that's being manufactured. and then Kotek, the governor, said, I want to remind everyone to remember that the Oregon National Guard is made up of Oregonians who are citizen soldiers. All of us are encouraging Oregonians to not take the bait. And again, this is a little bit like, don't throw a water bottle at them. It's like, come on now. Who's actually doing the incitement of violence, right? Troops or the people? The people are defending themselves. Their people are defending their neighbors from being swept up in ridiculous, ICE raids. But that's not even the pretense for what is happening in Portland. The pretense is Antifa. And so again, Oregon's suing, but luckily, there is another superhero on the way who's going to save Portland.
Is there anything you can do to stop it as in Congress?
Yes. First, we will fight it in the courts along with, people who will file suits. But second, I would hope, Kristen, that some of our Republican colleagues, I know they're loyal to Trump and does whatever he wants, but this is so far stepping over the line that I'd hope some of them would join us in legislation to prevent it from happening.
I know they love Trump, but could you please join us? Prevent it, please. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for a few ghosts to come visit them at night. Maybe me, if I die soon enough. And then I'll visit them from beyond the grave, and I will shake my finger at them. Like, this is insanity. People are under attack. And again, it is so revelatory how little Democrats are fighting. The federal workers are on one level, but these open attacks on people, the open season on the left, right? The open season on these incredible organizations, nonprofits, foundations who are being put in the crosshairs, who are people that have helped them get elected, whose movements help them get elected, whose narratives they have chased, right? That the Democrats are not standing up for them is wild, right? And that we're just going to rely on the courts, which are more corrupted by the day, and we're just going to rely on the goodness of Republicans' hearts. Are you kidding me? They're afraid of their own base. They don't want to be the ones in the crosshair. They don't want to be in the list of enemies. What's his face? John Bolton's house was raided by the FBI. They don't want their home swatted or raided by the FBI. They're cowards, and so are you. So it's a game of, what's the game of coward chicken? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's got to be a word for who does nothing last. And that's the game that Republicans and Democrats are playing with one another. Stephen Miller having a great one, though. Just having a good one. Let's move on because maybe I can read some comments in between now that I'm so low. Elsie says it's like Minority Report and Idiocracy and 1984 in one fucked up reality. Yeah, but like with memes. You don't like my music says an organized left is the funniest thing I've ever heard. Exactly. And while it's funny, like I you see all the memes about Portland and all the Portlandia stuff. I think it's funny, but I'm also actually just terrified. Like, I'm actually incensed that this is our reality. I'm incensed that this is happening. And so kudos to Portlanders, Oregonians, and the people standing up for themselves. Jorman on the shutdown. I agree with David Dayen on his sentiment on Democracy Now!, where he says the government has been shut down since Trump got into office. Exactly. 100%. I think the cat's been out of the bag for a while. This is something that has gotten my goat. I've never been an Ezra Klein fan, and I guess I missed the Ezra Klein boat. I don't know what happened. I guess I don't look to the New York Times for their op-ed section. Been burned one too many times. I'm gonna pass on all the Thomas Friedman crap, like I'm just not that lib who's gonna love the op-ed section, but people do somehow listen to Ezra Klein, and Ezra Klein, of course, has been on a months-long campaign to move the Democratic Party. And guys, this is different. Move it to the center. Like run candidates that are, in his words, pro-life, which just means you're against the freedom to choose. All right? That's all that means. You believe the state should decide when and how and if you have a child. That's Ezra Klein, and he has been, since the 2024 loss, just sort of like, where did we go wrong? And doing the same thing that centrist pundits have done for time immemorial, but specifically since Hillary Clinton lost, which is maybe we should move to the center. Including Nancy Pelosi said the exact same thing. Hillary Clinton played into being a woman too much. No, Hillary Clinton was unlikable and also did nothing to actually speak to the real needs of people. She was both awful to listen to and her policies stunk. I'm sorry. And of course, sexism, but it's all wrapped up. The point is that Ezra Klein had, of course, the op-ed after the murder of Charlie Kirk, and it said Charlie Kirk was practicing politics the right way, and in it, he makes the case for the idea that Charlie Kirk was open-minded in terms of allowing debate to happen, that he went to college campuses, and that this is how it should be done, and kind of like it's kind of like he lived out loud. You know what I'm saying? He had a zest for life. He had a zest for, well, xenophobia, but zest for life. We should all have a zest for life. And Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote in response not only to Ezra Klein, but to a couple of other opinion writers in mainstream news sources that they were effectively whitewashing his legacy. And his piece for Vanity Fair was titled "Charlie Kirk Redeemed, a Political Class Finds Its Lost Cause." And let me just say that as someone whose parents read the Times, you all know people who read the New York Times, you know, my mom learned about the song Despacito from the New York Times. This is the level of like people who don't really participate in the culture or listen to music or like are, you know, following who Charlie Kirk is or watching a bunch of YouTube videos, but they're going to read the New York Times and be like, oh, okay, that's who this person was, you know? And so when they open the paper to read Ezra Klein completely ignoring Charlie Kirk's legacy and what he talked about time and again, that has a huge impact, right? That does a massive disservice, I think, to reality, but especially to this idea that we are somehow working with honest brokers in politics, that the other side doesn't actually just want us dead, locked up, or without our fundamental rights. Like that is lying. That's lying. And so one of the lines that Coates had was in 2022 when Kirk was frustrated. Coates is basically taking inventory of what Kirk did and said. In 2022, when Kirk was frustrated, for instance, by the presence of Leah Thomas on the University of Pennsylvania women's swim team, Kirk did not call for spirited discourse. Instead, while discussing a recent championship tournament, he said he would like to have seen a group of fathers descend from the stands, form a line in front of Leah Thomas and say, hey, tough guy, you want to get in the pool? Because you're going to have to come through us. By the way, Leah Thomas, trans swimmer. Mere weeks before his death, Kirk reveled in Trump's deployment of federal troops to D.C. Shock and awe force, he wrote, we're taking our country back from these cockroaches. And in 2023, Kirk told his audience that then President Joe Biden was a corrupt tyrant who should be put in prison and or given the death penalty for his crimes against America. That is being honest. And so Ezra Klein hit up Charlie Kirk, hit up Ta-Nehisi Coates, and they had an interesting discussion. So I'm going to take you through a couple of clips and why I found this discussion so obnoxious and how much Coates has to, like, I just, the kinds of conversations Ta-Nehisi Coates puts himself into is like, my God, he has so much grace for people who clearly are not listening to him. So here's what he says sort of in an opener in terms of his problems with Ezra Klein's op-ed.
Went past my initial impressions and started like going through all of the clips of the things he said, the way he talked about people, the way he, described groups in ways that honestly, even as I was writing it, I was uncomfortable saying. And so the idea that this guy should be in any way celebrated for how he conducted politics, the fact that he just slurred across the board, all sorts of groups of people, and then ran an organization wherein which appeared to me just a haven of hatred.
Pausing it to say, yes, it was a haven of hatred. One of the people who worked there texted another person at Turning Point and said, I hate blacks. I just hate them, all of them. So, I mean, that's obviously a little coded, but that's the kind of level of hatred that he's talking about.
I would not want that to be a model for my politics. And I know, as we talked between us that, you are not attempting to make a statement for the entirety of it. But I guess I feel like at a certain point, somebody's legacy, or somebody does something that is so large that it's tough to think about their legacy and take that out of it. And that's how I felt about him.
So I think I want to get at the right level of disagreement here.
Okay. If that is a jump cut from him not doing active listening, bad on me. But it seems like his reaction to Coates coming very honestly and sincerely at what his problems with Ezra Klein was like, it's an abdication of your duty to, not be honest about when you're writing something like that in this op-ed. And he was like, I want to be clear about the disagreements here. It's like, buddy, would it cost you anything to just stop and say, I hear you? Just that word. I'm like, this is what they teach. If you've ever been to therapy, and who knows, if you've ever been to therapy, it's like active listening. Just say you heard someone say the thing they said. Have a moment as someone is being a little bit sincere with you to just register that. It's reminding me of the Adam Friedland, oh God, I'm forgetting his name. The Adam Friedland interview with APAC homie. Who's APAC guy? Anyway, I'll think of it. It's on the tip of my tongue. Let's just keep playing it.
So I think one thing for me is that, I don't know, for me, the immediate...
Richie Torres. Okay, let's go back. Richie Torres.
I don't know. For me, the immediate hours after somebody is murdered in public, when you see that sort of grief and horror pouring out of the people who loved him, and many people loved him, my instinct then is to just sit with them in their grief, right? To say, I can, for this moment, find some way to grieve with you, to see your friend the way, or in some version of the way you saw him, right? That's not my view of, the person's whole legacy, but going to people when they're grieving like that and saying, listen, I want to tell you really what I thought of your friend. Just feels like not what you do in a kind of a community.
I think...
Hang on. What he just said was, it feels like it's not what you do in a community. And it's like, community of what? What are you talking about? Do you feel like Kirk is your coworker? Are you in a community with Charlie Kirk? And maybe, and I think the reality is Ezra Klein does think of himself in the community with Charlie Kirk, and he shouldn't, it's not the thing to do to point out, the reality. You should only say the good things. And so Coates comes back with a very important question.
Just feels like not what you do in a kind of a community.
I think all of that is understandable, but I guess, was silence not an option? Ways that honestly groups in...
Was silence not an option is so good, because I have to tell you this, people, Ezra Klein came out with this within 24 hours of Charlie Kirk being murdered, and he didn't have to say anything. He didn't need to necessarily log a column that day. I'm sure he was going to get paid the same. He could just not say it. Or he could just have a regular violence has no place in, American society, political violence, the same thing that everybody else says. But instead, it's Charlie Kirk was practicing politics the right way. It wasn't just that it's not that he stayed silent, and it's not that he just said something to honor the fact of how horrible and horrific his death was. He actually gave Charlie Kirk flowers, right? And this is true. If you're in the public eye, I mean, I've done very little about Charlie Kirk, right? And I don't think that's actually right. I think we should be honestly talking about his legacy. But there's no reason you need to come out and say anything in the first 24 or 48 or whatever. silence is an option. You can always just shut the F up. Everyone is free to do it. And I say that as someone who talks a lot for a living. But there's a little bit more, and I want to get into it because at some point, these people are talking past one another. And who these people are, to me, is a Black intellectual who comes at his experience of the United States and the world through a lens of historic oppression, through a country that has failed him and many people, many of us, someone who very much is from a community that is impacted when things like Donald Trump is elected. And then you have a neoliberal pundit who is a centrist, who is divorced from reality, and who keeps on scratching his head as to why Kamala Harris lost. And it must be because we need to move to the center and actually start having uncomfortable conversations. And where have we heard that before? You got your Joe Scarboroughs, you got your Cenk Uygurs, you got all these, I mean, you got your Pelosi's. It's the centrist line. Meanwhile, they're like, we need to keep on meeting in the middle. And they're so far gone, and they don't realize they're all the way on the right-hand side of the table trying to break bread with people who hate them. And so that's just the setup. And so here's Coates, and he eventually is just like, this is who Charlie Kirk was.
I don't take any joy in saying this, but we sometimes soothe ourselves by pointing out that love, acceptance, warmth, that these are powerful forces. I believe they are. I also believe hate is a powerful force. I believe it's a powerful, powerful unifying force. And I think Charlie Kirk was a hate monger. You know, I really need to say this over and over again. I have a politic that rejects violence, that rejects political violence. I take no joy in the killing of anyone, no matter what they said. But if you ask me what the truth of his life was, you know, the truth of his public life, I would have to tell you it's hate. I would tell you I'd have to tell you it is the usage of hate and the harnessing of hate towards political ends.
And if you thought that Ezra Klein came back at that and was like, I hear you, I know. And the question is, you know, how has it been allowed to fester, and who is propping up these narratives, and what are the forces behind them, and the money and the and he does not do any of that. Instead, almost directly after the critique, Ezra Klein insists on talking to Coates all about Democratic strategy, and I took particular umbrage with how he pivots like this.
And we probably don't have very different views on the value of the things he said. Why do you think he was winning?
Why do you think he was winning, right? And that's what Ezra Klein comes. Why do you think he was winning? And I don't know if it's to his credit or not, but Coates takes that question at face value, meaning he agrees that he's winning, right? And he comes at it from basically like, you know, again, hatred is incredibly powerful. And I've seen hate mongers rise to the top for a long time now. But the premise of why is Charlie Kirk winning, like, even just framing Charlie Kirk winning makes me want to puke. And I'm not trying to deny that he had a massive following, but this like winning is also a like attempt to give Charlie Kirk flowers for doing what? For like debating 17-year-olds on their college campuses, right? And getting owned, but just not putting out the clips where he gets owned. You know, why was he winning? And it's just like so crass and so cruel to even frame it like that. And the answer that Coates doesn't even offer, but that I will, is I don't know, when you get propped up by billions of dollars of Koch brothers money, when all of the billionaires except for one is an unmitigated psychopath that is somehow afraid that the hordes of masses are going to come, you know, tax them out of existence, which we should, but also we're going to make them say pronouns. Like, because that's why he's so famous. That's why he was winning. He was an astroturfed little boy who grew up to be an astroturfed man who's helped, you know, because fascism has easy narratives. because racism is a really easy narrative. You don't got to do a lot of convincing. You don't got to, lay out your arguments. It's pretty cut and dry when you just blame other people. So the fact that liberals, and Ezra Klein represents this liberal, is unable to see the humanity of the very people that Charlie Kirk targeted, Black Americans, trans Americans, women, right? People in power. Like, even like that is so gross to me, even as an intellectual exercise. You fancy yourself an intellectual, but you actually don't. Like, Ezra Klein, and you know what? I watched this whole interview. And let me just say, not only is Ezra Klein one of the most pompous people who looks like he's smelling his own farts at every single moment before he was waiting for his time to speak, he's deeply insecure. Ezra Klein is a deeply insecure person. And that you feel that insecurity from liberals. And why are they insecure? Because they don't believe in anything. And here he is sitting across the table from someone who believes in something. And that makes liberals so uncomfortable. Truly, it's why Kamala can't endorse, Zoran with more than he's a Democratic nominee. It's why Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer can't even endorse Zoran anyway. It's why they smeared Bernie Sanders. It's because they are staring face to face with someone who believes in something, and it makes them really insecure because they don't know what they believe in, because they don't believe in a lot. So I thought that was an excellent and terrifying and disgusting conversation in so many different ways. And I would ask us to not over-intellectualize this both sides BS. It's why we are who we are. It's because we don't over-intellectualize things when people's lives are on the line. That's not, like, most people don't intellectualize reality. Anyway, let's bring in my next guest. Finally, Franny's joined by somebody who's, can join me in this echo chamber. Derek, how am I introing you? He is the co-host of the Conspirituality podcast. He is the author of Conspirituality as well. And he has a massive Substack tracking all of the ongoings of the Maha world, and specifically RFK Jr., our HHS secretary. Please welcome Derek Beres. Derek.
Hello. I have to apologize in advance if I have to run into my bomb shelter here in Portland. The plane's been flying over it all day, so hopefully we'll get a break.
Hopefully Antifa, comes out with their hands up. Yet, Derek, this is, God, you're in Portland. I mean, has it actually been more activity, or it's just like that one block, as I believe the police chief came out and was like, look, I love cracking skulls of protesters, but there just aren't very many right now.
No, ironically or not, I'm a cyclist and I cycle by ICE all the time. For people who aren't from here, first off, there's the Tesla factory, and right across the bike path is ICE. They sit right next to each other in Portland, so very convenient for protesting. And it's not in the same one block as the infamous protests during COVID of George Floyd era protests. It's in a completely different area. Okay. So every time I see this information on the news about the chaos, there are more people out there. I've gone by a couple times. There are more people out there, but you're talking like 50, 70 people, all peaceful. Like, it's not anything happening here. It's really funny.
Yeah. I mean, I have, like, the thing is that there have been some attacks on ICE. I mean, obviously that unhinged shooter who fired into a facility and killed people. I think there was a man who was, like, fighting for his life, but it's like the amount that they are provoking. I mean, it's like the provocateurs that existed in 2020 are now just the federal government. And they're provoking. And I'm not someone who's like, don't take the bait. But it's just wild who is instigating this kind of, who wants a fight, and they're trying to pick a fight. And as you're saying, most people are just like, I'm peacefully protesting. It's there's so many of us who are doing that. And your asses have to back up into the ICE facility. But
yeah, it's all agitation. That's all an acceleration. That's all it was ever designed to be. And when Portland comes together and has like the October 18th, there'll be another No King's Day. I'm sure there's going to be huge activity here. They are predominantly peaceful. There are, if you want to fight, there are people in this area who are going to bring it. And unfortunately, that will probably get filmed and clipped and run over and over on Fox News, because if they do come in and agitate, there is a community here who's not going to take that shit.
Yes. No.
So
exactly.
that is going to happen. So we should prepare for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this is what I mean about like, and it's so ironic because some of the very groups that they are looking at, trying to pull funding for are ones who do mass trainings in things like civil disobedience. And civil disobedience is not a tactic of like fucking shit up or, responding or lighting shit on fire, which again, I'm not here to pass judgment on that, but I'm just saying like it is a mass movement tactic to shut down roads, to block, to protest. And it is safer and it is peaceful. I mean, it's militant, but it's nonviolent. And so it's just kind of ironic because it feels again, kind of like it's like what it's like what states have always done to resistance movements, which is eliminate the elements that are more moderate. And so you push people into, doing extreme acts and all that.
Well, one other irony about this particular situation is a couple years ago, that area is downtown. It's right by homeless shelters. It's right by a lot of activity. So a lot of times when you see clips of Portland, it's in that general area. ICE is on the border of one of the bougiest areas of Portland called South Waterfront.
Yeah,
so if you go one block over, you have these high-rise condos with Pilates shops and coffee shops. It's right there. It is a complete, like, different reality from the other situations, which makes it all even more kind of jarring.
Oh yeah. There's definitely gonna get people with their yoga mats being, corralled. What is it? Kettled. We'll see it. But Derek, I wanted to bring you on. It's been a few weeks since I put out a very long piece on RFK Jr. You took a look at it and I appreciated it. And yet every single day, as you told me privately, you're like, Maha's a fire hose. It is a fire hose of what is happening to whatever public health we had in this country. There's a few like breaking things I wanted to talk to you about. Which I have to just open with asking you about med beds. Med beds, my friend. Donald Trump on Truth Social tweeted a video that was AI of him announcing med beds for every American, which are all healing, almost like tanning beds that you lie in and suddenly you're cured. And I was doing a little bit of, reading on it, and it seems like it's connected to the QAnon conspiracy. He has since deleted that, which is actually strange because he doesn't delete a lot. But can you just med beds, Maha, conspiracies? Have you heard of med beds before?
Well, we've done full episodes on them, Conspirituality, back in 2020 or 2021, because a lot of the origins of our podcast was covering QAnon, what was going on in that world, because the intersection in wellness was often running through QAnon and those message boards. And MedBeds was along with anti-vax 5G. MedBeds was one of the first ones once lockdowns began. And the difference is in this video, you actually get a visual of them because they were just philosophical before. I don't think people really drew them or made videos. AI wasn't there yet. So this one, you had the whole healing facility, but it's just what the video says. It's this idea that you can just enter this chamber of a bed and be healed of whatever ails you. And it's the furthest reaches of sort of this wellness utopia that perpetually exists. This idea that we can heal ourselves in some way. The only difference is this is a technology. And there's always an interesting intersection between the technologies that wellness people embrace and then the ones that they think are either evil or they deny any validity to. And medbeds somehow crossed over into being something. But the funny thing is, it was never a big one. It never really caught on because people saw how ridiculous it was. So when he shared that and I found out about that, I was like, first of all, 2020's calling. And the fact, like, I think it was Seth Meyers last night written a whole clip on it. And he was like, does Trump think he actually said those things when he shared it? And I just don't know. Oh. Sorry, Fran. I just lost all audio from you.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I muted myself because there was a garbage truck. My bad. I was just thinking that there was my bad. My bad. The old garbage truck came through. Yeah, no, the med beds thing is like we've been so poison pilled around not having universal health care. The conspiracy theorists are like, nah, rather than making insurance companies cover everybody or getting universal health care, the more realistic thing is to have a bed that meds you and also makes you tanner, as RFK Jr. and everybody participates in. So yeah, that was just absolute nonsense. The other thing though that happened today was that Trump announced TrumpRX, which might not be as much nonsense. It allows Americans to buy meds directly from the government at arguably, allegedly lower costs. They're like figuring out how to implement. Apparently Pfizer's all on board, which I thought HHS hated Pfizer. I thought Pfizer was the enemy. The Pfizer shot is supposed to be harmful to children. Tell me about what you know about TrumpRX and whether you think this will even happen.
I correlate it to what Maha has done with food dyes, and I know you might want to talk about that as well. But it's being put forward as this breakthrough win when all it is. And let me say this: if it actually happens, I'm all for it. But it's not nearly what they're presenting it to be. So basically, Trump apparently made a deal with Pfizer that he's going to do a favored nations deal, meaning that wherever Pfizer sells these particular drugs in other countries, the US will get it at the lowest rate, which would be huge. Because something like insulin, we pay like 5 to 10 times more than the next closest nation pays for it. This has always been a problem. I saw someone comment that it's just basically ripping off Mark Cuban's idea with cost plus, which is completely true. The thing that I'm concerned about is that it's just with one company. He sent letters to 17 other pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
It's all leveraging for his tariff ideas because that's all he really has at his disposal when he wants to leverage with international, or Pfizer's American, but like the American, they're building facilities here. That was part of the deal as well. And I'm all for bringing manufacturing here, especially if it's going to mean reduced cost for Americans and jobs. That's fine. But it's also specific to just certain drugs for Medicaid patients. Now, those are the patients that need the interventions the most at the lowest cost. So that's great, but it's not for all Americans.
Yep.
So again, you have this very small deal that he's trying to pretend is going to, it's the same thing RFK Jr. did with food dyes. If I make a deal with one company, all the other ones are just going to follow suit, which hasn't been happening. And so right now, I would say if that win turned into something bigger, I think it would actually be helpful.
Sure.
We'll see.
Sure. No. I'm like, I'll believe it when I see it. I actually, just put out a piece about the pronatalism movement, which does have intersections with Maha and, the health insanity and the white nationalism that runs through it. And talking about IVF and the fact that Trump also promised something that most Americans want, which is, God, at least insurance companies would pay for IVF. But he said on the campaign trail, the United States government will roll out IVF programs, that this is going to happen. Nothing has happened. There has been absolutely no movement on it. And in fact, as I'm sure you've covered, Maha doesn't believe in IVF. They are very much into something called like restorative reproductive healing, which is basically like, you're eating too many, seed oils, or you're eating red 40 or whatever the hell they think it is, to blame people for their own inability to have children. And so you don't need fertility meds and all that's blah. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this TrumpRX stuff, and again, I'd like to see it happen. I mean, I'm not going to say like, well, that's okay. You can keep on, arresting nonviolent immigrants if you do this. But I would love to see a thing that he sort of, populism whispers to the American public. I would like him to do one of those things. At least it would give Democrats a little bit of like, well, maybe I got to do something like that too,
Well, it's also at a time when Hakeem Jeffries is out, which is just complete garbage, but he's out talking about universal health care. It's cognitively dissonant from the subject at hand, which is the government shutdown. But the fact that he's out on the steps talking about that, it might have provoked something here.
Yeah. It's true. It's the same thing of, in 2016 when Bernie's running and Bernie's like universal health care, and then Trump, truly well into the campaign, kind of lifts that language, but makes it dumber and Trumper and just says like, you're going to have something better than Obamacare. It'll be great. It'll be better. And it's like, we still have yet to see the plans, or what was it? The ideas for a plan, as in 2024 when he was running. So like, we'll see with TrumpRX, but it's like, the one thing I will give him is putting your name on it is kind of a stroke of genius. Again, one of the things I covered in the pronatalism piece was the Trump baby bonuses. And it's like, it's a disgustingly brilliant name. It's probably not going to happen and wouldn't amount to much money, but good for you to put your name on it. I wanted to ask you more about RFK Jr., specifically since August, the restriction of the COVID-19 vaccine. What in the hell, and what other vaccines are in the, crosshairs of HHS? I know that the West Coast, Oregon and Washington and California and Hawaii are forming this like West Coast alliance for vaccines. They're saying anyone who wants to get the COVID-19 vaccine shot can. But this is really happening. Like this, we've gone from Operation Warp Speed, give Trump credit, he did this amazing thing to save millions and millions of lives, to the COVID-19 vaccine is dangerous upon no proof, and we are going to be restricting it. Give me your thoughts.
Well, it is happening. So specific to COVID, the restrictions are people over 65, and then taking away Pfizer from children under 5 and only letting them have Moderna, and with like a doctor's note. There was a moment where different states, you needed a prescription. That was happening in Oregon, but I got mine last week. So it depends on where you go. But
Right.
Now it seems you're able to. But either way, it's just, they talk so much about this idea of medical freedom, and they're just taking that away from people over and over again, as if these vaccines haven't been tested thoroughly on millions of people, and actually hundreds of millions, billions of people have actually received them with very few negative interactions. But just last night, Kennedy, on his Secretary Kennedy Instagram and Twitter feeds, he posted this rambling video that could have been pulled out from the 1990s about the anti-vax trope, that it wasn't vaccines. It basically is making an argument that vaccines have never actually helped with tetanus or measles or pertussis. And he's doing this trope where he's saying it was public health, it was more sanitation, it was technologies. Now, like anything Maha does, there's a grain of truth in that public health interventions are also part of the story, but they are not the entire story. And he always frames things in binaries. So he's saying that all of these doctors, they just say only get a vaccine. That's all that matters. They don't talk about diet. They don't talk about nutrition. They don't talk about sanitation or public health interventions, which is just completely untrue. But that's what he does. He sets up this straw man argument by making it a binary. And it's about a 4 to 5 minute video. And so if you really want to understand what he's going to do next, it's eliminating as many vaccines as possible. He does give some lip service in like minute 430 where he said, yes, vaccines sometimes help, and then he goes right back into his shtick. So my feeling is he's just going to continue to chip away. He could have done a lot more damage with the last ACEP meetings, but they were so unprepared that it was just a shit show. So all they really could get done was a couple of restrictions on COVID vaccines. I feel like they'll be better prepared to limit things at the next one, and that's what we should prepare for.
And the MM. I mean, again, that's kind of like everything else. The mission drift of Trump in general. You know, you see that with RFK Jr. because initially, you know, it's the oh my God, I'm blanking on the COVID-19 vaccine technology.
mRNA.
It's the mRNA technology that is dangerous. And then it's like, no, it's the MMR vaccines that are dangerous. It's everything that's dangerous. So it's like, it's not, what is it? What is it actually about? Well, it's about the fact that he's more broadly against vaccines. Now, here's my thing, Derek, to his credit. The cause of autism is not vaccines. It's Tylenol. Acetaminophen, you know, however you say it. Like, that was actually surprising to me. What's your Tylenol lowdown? Is this is Tylenol going to be, I mean, yes, what kind of tariffs are they going to want? Like what is the backdoor deal here with Aleve that has been rolling out?
Yeah, the funny thing is acetaminophen is in so many products. It's in Robitussin, it's in Mucinex. There are dozens of over-the-counter pharmaceuticals that contain it. So the myopic focus on Tylenol, I suspect, tying it back to what you were saying earlier about IVF, is who better to blame than pregnant mothers?
Yeah.
It must be the pregnant mother's fault. So it's more control over women's bodies. That's what I'm guessing is there's this obsessive focus on Tylenol. And he comes out, and it's the same thing, like I said, with Trump and marketing with TrumpRX. Kennedy said in, I think it was April, that I will have identified the cause of autism by September. September comes around. What does he do? He basically shares a handful of studies that have been conducted as far back as 2019. I think 5 or 6 studies on the White House page that I read, and I went through them. All of them are correlative. All of them say we need more research. We can't find a mechanism for causation. Kennedy does what he always does. In his moment during the press conference, he admits that it's correlative and it's all speculative. And then the rest of the time, you have Trump saying, don't take Tylenol. And you have Bhattacharya and Makary all kind of echoing that. So what Kennedy does is he gets one soundbite in where he's being the reasonable person. The rest of it goes off the rails. But when he's challenged on it, he's able to say, no, this clip right here, that is a tactic he's done over and over for decades now that gives him cover. And he can then go and speak freely as he wants to his community and his anti-vax coalition. I will say, though, I did a bonus episode this week on Conspirituality called the Maha Civil War, because part of that anti-vax coalition was really pissed off that he put the onus on Tylenol.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, this is the golden goose. This is the thing they needed. Like, what are you doing here, buddy? You've been working on this for decades.
It created this crazy dissonance where some people like Zen Honeycutt was just pissed off. You had some of his stands like Dave Asprey and Will Cole coming out and saying, all of a sudden they know about the downstream effects of Tylenol kind of supercharging the vaccines, which is the line they're going with. And then we just recorded an episode, it'll be out Thursday, about this with Mallory DeMille, where we found all of these wellness influencers who are now hawking homeopathic supplements as alternatives to Tylenol.
Yeah.
And they're doing the same. All they're doing are regurgitating what Kennedy said, which is not based in any sort of science. And then they're selling supplements. And I think the richest part of it is there's the homeopathic supplements, which are obviously garbage because there's no mechanism of action. But some of them are selling glutathione supplements because of the supposed glutathione depletion that happens when you take Tylenol, which is true if you overdose or take it for too long, but not if you just take a therapeutic dose. And the funny thing is they set up, just like I said about binaries, they set up this binary where don't take this pharmaceutical Tylenol, take my glutathione supplement. It's natural. And then I looked, and you can't find natural glutathione as a supplement. It doesn't work as well in the body. So all of the glutathione supplements are synthesized, which means they're basically pharmaceutical grade.
Yeah.
So it's this constant bait and switch that they rely on people not having any awareness of the scientific process just so they can make shit up and sell them products.
It's truly the most terrifying timeline, you know, that we've also taken the anti-intellectualism war on intellectualism and war on experts and war on knowledge and applied it to health. And we were, as we've talked about before, kind of ripe for the picking, the American public, but it really is absolutely terrifying. I want to ask about Dr. Oz. I mean, I read somewhere that maybe Oz also has something to gain by, you know, in the supplement market, trying to cure autism. What can you tell us about that?
I read that day that he has a stake in a company that sells glutathione supplements. That's about the extent of it. That's as far as I look, because Oz is someone who I don't know. I kind of almost blank him out because he's just been such a grifter for so long. Of course he's going to take advantage.
Right.
I don't know if I don't think this would have been done just to appease him in any way, because the acetaminophen, you know, speculation has been around for a while that it could be one of the triggers. Like that's not new. He's kind of, Kennedy never has a new thought, just to be clear. Like he's always pulling from a long history of anti-vax skepticism and crankism that he swims in. But of course, all of his cronies are gonna profit in some way or another with what they're doing.
Okay, a few more questions. I did want to ask you about, you know, the attack on the CDC that we somehow don't talk about in August, so recent. A man fired 180 rounds into the CDC. A security guard was killed. He was mad about the COVID-19 vaccine, which was ironic because then like a week later they were like, we're restricting it. And which is also terrifying because you're like, if this man was mad at the COVID-19 vaccine, I mean, if Democrats and the media knew how to message this was the CDC capitulating to a terrorist, you know, saying that they are going to restrict the vaccine for certain amounts for certain people and whatnot. In terms of this kind of violence coming from anti-vaxxers, have we seen it before? Do you understand based on like the insanity of like where some of the QAnon stuff that it could lead in this direction?
Well, first off, I can't believe the Democratic Party missed a messaging opportunity. But I have not seen, I mean, this gets to like anti-abortion activist level.
Yes.
Right. I mean, so we don't see a lot of that with anti-vaxxers. I don't know about historically, but not that I've been reading about the last 200 years of vaccines for a long time, from many books and articles. And I don't see a lot of violence in that sense. So this could be new. And it's just, there is going to be something that continues to break in our nation. I just read, what is it? The top 10% of earners now control 67% of wealth. Like you can't keep going that way and not expect more violence.
Yep.
It's just, so the fact that you've built these coalitions based in conspiratorial thinking, that is probably who's going to attract people who will be violent. Yep. So it's not surprising to me.
Yep. I mean, it's right. It's grifting off the feeling of powerlessness and or the real feeling of powerlessness. I think a lot of political violence comes from that, when it's actually not, when it's not a lie. You know what I mean? When it's not just a conspiracy.
Yes.
I did want to ask then about Bernie being like, I don't somehow one of the only people that's been like, you gotta go, Kennedy. RFK has to go. He must resign now. Bill Cassidy, Republican senator, former physician, was a deciding vote to confirm RFK Jr. on the promise so that you don't dismantle everything, and he has, and now Cassidy's pissed off. But this, to me, this is the bar. This insanity does not have to continue. We could end this nightmare. He could be forced to resign. But you're really not hearing that much of it. Give me your thoughts and yeah, just tell me.
Well, fuck Bill Cassidy, because I that was inevitable when he did the whole charade and voted him through. I believe I read that they were college buddies, so they go way back. So he was not going to deny him entry into that position. And so when anytime he comes out, he tries to do these sort of PSAs about public health now, and I see them like, fuck off, because this really, it's not just on you, but you could have stopped this.
Yep.
And he didn't. And I like Bernie, and I feel like I mean, we know this. The Democratic Party could learn a few things, and they don't from him. And so they could learn that. They could put pressure on Kennedy, but they don't. And I think that's a real missed opportunity, because one way to gauge the temperature is just, look at the nightly shows. I generally, when eating dinner with my wife, generally we'll put on Colbert or Kimmel. We just go through them at random through different times.
I know you do. Because you were like, oh, have you seen the John Oliver? I was like, we got someone.
Oh, John Oliver's a must, because he does some of the best and funniest reporting. But they have really, since he was installed, latched onto Kennedy in a way that they only reserve for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And I say all of this because if he reaches that level of mainstream awareness and that many people are laughing, that is a good sign to the Democrats to be like, oh, maybe we can build something off this. And so I don't know how they missed that.
Yeah, and you're just like, who is really protecting him? He's not Musk, he's not Thiel, he's a lower, in my opinion, a lower hanging fruit, and he's more of a crank, and he's also not like a Trump loyalist. He ran against Trump. He talked about the dangers of Trump for so long. So to me, he's someone who should be picked off, and I totally agree with you. It's completely out of step. I mean, it's just hard to be like, how do you create a movement other than a movement for Medicare for all, but that's like, hey, I believe in science. You know what I mean? It's not as sexy as being like, oh, wearing a diaper on your face turns you gay, or whatever the fuck the anti-maskers were doing during COVID. You know what I mean? It's like, we don't have alternate supplements. We're just like, yeah, I don't know. We think things should be peer reviewed and tested. And yeah, they should be far more affordable, and there is a monetary incentive. So anyway, it just feels like something else, again, that a broader democratic socialism agenda could neutralize the sort of the pull of this movement. Last thing, but I feel like people, when I talked about seed oils or red 40 or high fructose corn syrup, I learned a lot just sort of doing, reading your work and looking into how bad these things actually were. And this is what Maha is saying has been their big wins, that Steak and Shake is going back to beef tallow instead of seed oils, which just means canola and stuff like this, or, whatever the hell. So it's so weird how, and you're right, it's so specific what they're mad at, that you're like, you must be invested in the alternative to these oils. But maybe just break down how these wins are, and these things are not actually that bad for us. I know this is a big question.
Yeah, in general, with processed foods, like there's natural foods as you pick out of the ground or slaughter, and then there's processed, which is most food we eat, and then there's ultra processed, which just means it goes through more steps and has more chemistry involved. And in general, talk to any dietitian or clinical nutritionist, and they're going to say, try not to eat too much of those. And it's predominantly because of the levels of sugars and oils and salts that are in them. It's not taking out one ingredient. If you wanted to go after an ingredient, sugar would be a bigger culprit. And even sugar, I mean, again, it's dose level that really matters. So when you get to it, should you be cooking with canola oil all the time? If you can afford olive oil, it's probably going to be incrementally better, but it's still not the effect that they're saying. And there are clinical trials that show therapeutic effects from oils across the board. But what they've done is, as I said about before, this sort of disingenuousness around glutathione, they do the same thing because they say, oh, you know, these petroleum-based food dyes, that like the cooking oils were started in the lubricant industry, in the automotive industry. You know what? Most chemistry you use was started being tested for something else. Like, that's across the board. And so many of them sell products that are petroleum-based supplements that started off used in the textile dye, like
that have food dyes in it, as I learned.
Blue, right?
Yes.
Methylene blue used to dye blue jeans. That's where it started. And he uses it. He drops it in his water now. No known health
There's
effects.
nothing more American than that. I mean, that's an okay supplement.
He swims in them, right? He works out in them.
Blue
sure.
methylene, the blue jeans. That's no wonder he sounds the way he sounds. Just got a tight pair of Levi's in his neck.
So anytime you see a Maha wing coming out, just know until it's socialized medicine, it's going to be bullshit. And at the other end of it, not all of them end up in a product sale, but like the tallow thing, it's more of a lifestyle. It's more of a mindset.
Yeah.
That they're trying to capture in people, and they're very successful for their community, but it's not based in science.
Derek Beres, you have a massive, Conspirituality is a massive following, but you on Substack are crushing it because you are able to capture these sort of daily grind, stories that come out. Where can people find it, follow you, support you?
Thank you. Yeah. DerekBeres.substack, DerekBeres.com, just my name.com has all the links to all my properties. So that's probably the easiest place to go.
You're huge over there. On the internets, but like I'm so happy, and I'm happy to know you, and I'm happy that like we have to support people like you, and I think a lot of the folks that you guys are platforming over on Conspirituality, like Mallory as well, just because there are no watchdogs anymore, and a lot of the experts again are being fired and iced out, and it's terrifying.
And one thing that people sometimes ask me is, when it comes to health, presenting good health information, how are we going to navigate this? And it's been my feeling since starting Conspirituality and interviewing so many doctors and researchers that media evolves, with your live YouTube show that wouldn't have existed 10 years ago, like media evolves. And I feel that the parasocial relationships that charismatic doctors who present good information are building, like Jessica Nurek has over 1.2 million followers now, interviewing Elizabeth Warren on her Substack, like she's like, those are the people. And I feel really good being in a community of people who are science forward and science minded.
Yeah.
Who are just like, okay, let's do this. And thankfully with Conspirituality, I have a way to make a living doing it. A lot of the other people don't, but people are really trying to, because it's scary, because when you offend public health, which is everyone's health to the degree that Maha is accomplishing, no one wins.
Absolutely. And also, it's doctors should not have to do Substacks and like, epistemologists or whomever, but there should be competition in this space for, influencers and people online. And it is, if they're influencers around fashion, around money, around, self-help, around therapy, around parenthood, you bet your ass, and this is what you guys have covered, it exists around health. And a lot of what's out there is bunk science, but people sort of easily ingest it and want to believe things that are like, and I honestly, even like the Washington Post, like their Instagram is so insane. It's always like they're releasing some new study, and I'm always like, oh God. And like I'm saying they're playing off of the same stuff, which is you being told that what you've been eating or what you've been doing is actually secretly bad for you, and that's very attractive. And so we actually do need more people who do know what they're doing to play in these spaces and compete for eyeballs and clicks, because Maha is.
Yeah, they dominate it. And, from my experiences, my former career as a fitness instructor, people want to be proactive with their health.
Yes.
And so it behooves professionals to be able to present clear and concise and reliable information that will help them. And unfortunately, the media that we have, meaning social media, which is how most people get their information, is not designed for that. Because as you were talking before, like there should be a common sense movement in politics and science, but it doesn't sell. The same thing, unfortunately, happens with health, because if you tell people just, try not to eat too many processed foods, try to get a good night's sleep, hydrate enough.
That's boring.
Like, it's boring to people. And that's
boring. We've heard you don't eat sugar, and I still, love my red vines or whatever the hell. Like, it's just so funny how like it's such well-worn territory, and they're like, nah, it's not new though. I want something that says like it's good to eat nerd ropes,
They feel like if they find that magic ingredient, it's going to change everything. I worked in the Whole Foods industry 20 years ago, like with different companies, and I watched the cycles enough in my life now to see it's the same thing over and over. It's just a cycle. It's like this new workout is going to finally get you in shape. This new diet plan is the one that's going to make you lose weight or get healthy, whatever it is. Like, but it's just recycled, and it's really about the marathon when it comes to health. And so many people want to pretend it's a sprint.
Well, just you wait until these Ozempic pills start rolling out, okay, Derek? Because you're going to be eating your words.
There's wellness influencers we cover who sell microdosing Ozempic protocols.
God damn it.
It's already here.
God damn it. It's like whatever. Yeah, whatever you could possibly imagine. They're working on it. Derek Beres, thank you so much for joining me once again. You're awesome. Take care. Everybody go to derekberes.com. Follow him.
You too. So great seeing you, friend.
Good seeing you. And thank you all for being here through the ups and downs, the highs and lows, the thicks, the thins, the mutes, the unmutes. Moondragon, happy mooniversary. The Portland memes on IG have been outstanding. Videos of war-torn streets. Lol. I know. But I'm still mad. Like, I'm still mad that it's funny, but it's not funny, because I've seen it here in LA and what's been happening. But yes, the idea that when the cops are coming out and saying that they don't need help and the National Guard has gone too far, or like, don't call them up, like that's when everything's jumped the shark. Rachel Atwin, my dad was just reacquainted with Ezra Klein in a recent Baby Soft New Yorker interview where he was described as controversial to some, both sides. Yeah. He's controversial because he's so obnoxious. Like if you think being obnoxious is controversial, he is. mRNA Bismarck, which thank you for your name, I forgot. Church greater than government, America is Christendom. Thank you for that. Don't really know what that means, but yes, that is what they think. That is what the Christian nationalists think. Serge Costa, thank you for your super chat. Do you think people like Ezra really believe they're improving the world? He seems like a smart guy. Is it stubbornness or just a grift? I think Ezra Klein has been inflated. I mean, by the Times, I guess by, Vox before that, he thinks he's smart. I think these are people who think they stay above the fray, that they're even keeled. And yet, as the late Howard Zinn said, you cannot be neutral on a moving train. And sometimes staying above the fray means you're actually just out of touch. But of course he thinks he's smart. Of course he thinks he's helping. Of course he thinks that. I mean, you can see it in his little cow eyes that he's afraid that Ta-Nehisi Coates is right and he is wrong. That's why he's so desperately insecure, is because he fancies himself someone who does help people. Yes, it's theoretical for Klein. Anyone with a sense or minority who isn't lost could see Kirk for the hate monger he was. That's the line, period. Thank you, Nocturne Noble on Twitch. Let's see. Jesus is a fact. You can't run away from Jesus. Thank you for that super chat. I love when I don't read them in advance. But I try to run away from Jesus. Run! He's gonna get me. I'm running away because he's chasing me. Jody Odell says candidates he backed lost. He only won a paycheck. I'm not sure who you're referring to, but thank you. Thank you. And happy birthday, Rachel Atwood. And Gingeron says, why do you think he's winning? Shows the naked sociopathy of shit libs. We must not tolerate anyone who normalizes hate mongers. It's gaslighting. Yes, it is. And I think maybe that previous comment was in reference to Charlie Kirk. DJ C Mission. Sorry I've been away, but there were some issues. Well, I'm glad you're back. John Winkler, I'm honestly scared for my daughter who is transitioning and is as happy as she's ever been. But with MAGA terrorizing trans people who worry every day she goes to college, but listening to you, she's hopeful. Well, I'm sending your daughter a lot of love and thank you for your super chat. My daughter would really love to strike up a conversation with you and learn how she can deal with all these MAGA weirdos and what they're trying to do to trans people. Well, I feel like you have to find your people, number one. I hope the Frantifa can be part of that community. But number two, I think these are the stories that need to be told constantly. I mean, Ezra Klein would have us turn away from the realities of trans youth and trans people. But I would say the strategy for beating Republicans is to have a narrative. And there's nothing more compelling of a narrative than saying, my family, my daughter is so happy now. They are happy because they transitioned. What a beautiful narrative. And you don't have to understand what it's like to be trans. You just can see it you are happier. This person is themselves. Their parents are happier. So, and that is the height of medical freedom, the height of the freedom to choose, the height of liberty. And Democrats they run away from that. Leading Dems run away from that. They're so scared of humanizing trans people and immigrants. They are so allergic to it. Just Julie, fuck Bill Cassidy, preach, yes. And Randall Smith, just one for the vegetarians. Vegetarians rule. Indeed. I used to be one of you, so, and then I got pregnant and was all it was all downhill from there. Onyx Squared on Twitch, Klein absolutely sees himself in community. He says his brother or his uncles or cousins or whatever, and Kirk. It feels like he has to strain himself to see community in others. Bingo. Bingo, dingo. And let's look, we only have one patron at $10 or more, but that's okay, because I'm just gonna sing their name over and over and over again and do some shout outs to the new members with a fart song. Thank you so much to the person whose name is about to be said right. Oh my God. To Ashley Coombs. Ashley, you're the best. Thank you so much. You can always become a member on YouTube, like our friends Jay Meda and Razor Blaze. Thank you so much. You can also become a subscriber over on Twitch, like Fascist Killa, 9 months strong. Here we go again, Franny. Another month into this hellscape that we call America. Thank God we have people like you showing us the true meanings of all this BS that it's out there. Thank you for coming as much as you can, knowing you have family to take care of, but you still have time to show us the way. Bless you and your family. Thank you. Left is best. Thank you, Hello Lovely Scientists on Twitch. Thank you, DD Reggae 77. Thank you, Onyx Squared again. Thank you, Darth J of A. Appreciate you. You can also become a paid member over on Substack, frannyfio.com, frannyfio.substack.com. There we go. That is what I wanted. Thank you to Paige Omek, to Brent Godin, to Andy Vasoyan. Go check out the pronatalism video. Give it a like. Give it a share. Become a patron. Come see me in Brooklyn. Come see me in Pasadena. And I will see you time, same place. Fight the power. Fuck the patriarchy. Free Palestine. Protect the flotilla and don't just bitch about it. Be about it. Bye.